NASCAR Cup Series race. Here are your hosts, Kevin Batstone, NASCAR Sky, and Jeff Davis.
Welcome back, race fans, to another awesome episode of Mashing the Gas podcast. I'm Jeff Davis. Joining me shortly is Mr. Kevin Batstone and Miss NASCAR Sky. We are here to cover the Texas Wurth 400. And I have to ask Sky, hey, who mashed the gas this week, girl?
You know, I'm very excited to say this, but I got to give it to Joey Logano. I mean, I'm ecstatic for many reasons, but I'm happy that I can finally change my hair. That's the best part about this entire thing.
Yeah, I was wondering about that too. I was like, okay, I wonder what hair color she's going to turn it to, because we were speculating on around Nashville or whatever. But yeah, you have to get up to Joey. He only led 7 laps, I think, but he did a damn good job. He got up there, he got it done.
All around, I thought it was a great race. I mean, it was a battle, and Texas delivered. There was a lot of speculation going into this weekend. What kind of racing were we going to see? And I think we saw great racing all around. Joey was there when he needed to be. He started P27, right? Didn't come out of the gate strong. I removed him from my lineup because of that reason. I thought, with the way his season's been going and struggling to get top tens, and we've seen what the 22 has done this year. Just didn't have him. But you know what? When you give Joey a chance and you give him an opportunity on an overtime restart or just to be in position, it's how he wins championships. He finds a way to get it done and survive in that overtime. I mean, Ryan Blaney's, of course, kicking himself for taking the second row there on that restart. I think we're all still scratching our head about that one. Michael McDowell was in a position there, but we just had so many cautions after cautions there. And then the overtime, Joey gets it done.
I don't know. I'm on the fence. I think it was good racing. It was decent racing. I think that I'm tainted by how many cautions were at the end. It just kind of turned it sour for me. It's not fun. I don't enjoy races when it's like that because I don't like the stop and go, stop and go, stop and go. But I guess it worked at a track like that. I mean, it really shuffled the entire field up, especially with what the Jesse Love one at the end. I mean, it kind of just jumbled everything all up together, but it was good to see. I was a little nervous going into the race. Saturday, I seen that PRN tweeted about Joey talking to Paul Wolf about how he was struggling to pass anybody, and that Paul Wolf told him that Ryan Blaney was 0.3 faster than the car in front of him, but he literally could not get around for 8 laps. So I was a little weary going into it, but overall, it was better Texas than I've seen in past for sure.
Yeah, I thought it was a great race. I mean, we did have quite a few cautions, which was, makes racing exciting a little bit. We don't want to see conveyor belt. I think that's why Texas has got a lot of shit in the past, is because before they did the repave, it was just kind of like a conveyor belt. Yeah, it was like just one by one by one by one. But this one, we saw some trading paint. I mean, there were 20 different lead changers and 13 different drivers. And you guys called me out when I was out last week since I was gone. Kyle Larson is who I would have took. He did lead the most laps with 90 laps. And somehow he just could not pull it through. I think he finished P4, if I remember correctly. But overall, though, I thought it was a really good race.
Well, Kyle was looking for that weekend sweep, right? We found out midweek that Connor Zilic was out with the lower back issue. Larson steps in that 88. I mean, he was 0.3 faster than the field in the Xfinity race, with the exception of Justin Allgaier, who got into a bit of a mess there later on. And, Larson had that shot. He had that, that carryover into Sunday. But, like Sky was saying, it ended up turning into caution breeds cautions. We talked about last week with Dega being the longest green flag run on a super speedway since 2004. And then Texas turned into a little bit of a wreck fest. I mean, we had Noah Gragson go around early. We had, you mentioned the bump in turn 4. I think that makes for great racing. I mean, did it catch Kyle Busch and, Josh Berry? Gave those guys a lot of trouble, but I think that's what makes for great racing, right? Is when the drivers have an opportunity to navigate difficulties, whether that's managing their tires, getting through the bumps. We saw that in Fontana for years. And Texas, unlike a lot of the other mile and a halves, is very unique with that 1 and 2 progressive banking, and that really, really tight 3 and 4 makes it very different than like Kansas, where we're headed next week.
Yeah, it's like buckle up. These guys are professionals. If there's a bump in the track, so what, man? It's like, yeah. So turn 1 and 2, it's about 36 foot wide, about 23% banking. And then you do have to launch it off the back straightaway to get that speed. And then you can full throttle it, in 5th gear when you hit turns 3 and 4. But for Joey Logano, back to him a little bit, starting in P27 and then winning the race like that. I just thought it was really cool, dude. And, Penske did a pretty damn good job for this race. I mean, Ryan Blaney finished P3. I know he was very no one likes to finish unless they're first. But for finishing P3, I thought it was a pretty good job. So I think Penske did a pretty damn good job overall.
Yeah, I seen another stat that all the top three finishers all started outside the top 20. So that was pretty interesting to see. Josh Berry, it was a tough break for him. I mean, he's been doing so well. He's really showing uh, that the 21 can be competitive and that maybe Harrison Burton was the issue. I hate to say it because I do like Harrison Burton a lot, but I mean, he's really, you know, took that car and made the most of it this season. It sucked to see what happened to him early on. But overall, yeah, I agree. It was a really, I don't know, it was overall pretty decent race. I was, like I said, I was expecting it to be a lot worse. Texas isn't one of my favorite tracks, but this kind of definitely switched my mind up a little bit for sure. The restarts, the bump was definitely killer. Uh, I agree with what you guys were saying. It gives, I don't know, the veterans kind of an edge, or it really makes you have to control your car and not just rely on a million other things that's going on. And I really like when it gets put into the driver's hands.
I agree. That's one of my favorite parts about difficult racetracks, and that's what caused a lot of this chaos. You look at Ross Chastain, who ended up walking away with a P2 finish. Trackhouse has just been off. I mean, overall, in their speed, really haven't been in the conversation, but they were able to survive the wrecks, get through some of the mess, and end up with a great finish. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., P6, another example of that. He dodged a couple guys spinning off turn four there. Austin Dillon, that's decent for RCR. So there was opportunities for guys that we typically don't have in the top 10 conversation for the mile and a halfs, our usual suspects that we picked last week that kind of shook things up a bit. So, that's one thing I like about it. And again, Carson Hocevar comes out, takes the pole, fastest all weekend, runs the fastest lap, and then gets caught up in that mess, and ends up finishing P24. But, some of the car control and the improvements that I've seen out of this 77, I think those guys are in a good spot to contend to win races.
Yeah, absolutely. And back to Josh Berry a little bit, man, he did a damn good job. I mean, he was crushing it in stage two. He literally was crushing it in stage two. He's a lot of laps. And then, he hit that bump. And I know everyone on social media is just bitching about it in turn four. But he was doing a really good job. And unfortunately, he just couldn't control the car. I think it was lap 126 when he spun around from the lead. He was in the lead. And that's what sucks for him because, it's good to see guys like Josh Berry in there. I love watching it.
I know we're all kind of jumping around all the drivers, but the whole Stenhouse thing, I mean, I was, how he avoided the eight, I will never know. That was so close. I was so surprised he didn't have to go down pit road and change his pants because I was so, so close. I seen another stat. I'm just bringing all the stats today. I guess I'm the stat girl. That Ross actually is the top driver this year and gaining on restarts. So it was really good to see that. I mean, I think I seen somewhere, I think it was like over 70 spots that he's gained just on restarts alone this year. I mean, he's like so much further ahead of whoever's in second place. So, I mean, good for him, good for Trackhouse. It was one of those days where, yeah, you had to survive, you had to keep it clean. I mean, pit road had 49 penalties between, speeding, crew members over the wall, commitment line violations, tire violations. I mean, those things add up. And it was fortunate the people that I know, like Ryan Blaney early on in the race, he got hit with a penalty. I don't quite remember what it was, like speeding or something, but it's better to get it out early on. As it goes down later, though, I mean, that's especially at a track like, Texas, it's hard to come back from that.
Yeah, absolutely. It really is. But like you said, there are a lot of drivers that did really good that we did, we normally don't see. I mean, John Hunter Nemechek getting a P8. Of course, we did Christopher Bell do well. He finished in P9. But seeing Suarez get a top 10, he got P10. I thought it was pretty good. Trackhouse has got some work to do, but they're doing a pretty damn good job overall. They need some wins. That's what they need to do. And Ryan Blaney, that's who really is like, I know he's really frustrated right now because he wants it. He's wanting that win. He's eager and he's frustrated. Even like I said, he got a P3 here in Texas. He's still pissed off. He's not in the playoffs yet.
He will be, though. I mean, Penske's got so much speed. We've seen the consistency now with the 22 in the conversation. With Cindric coming off Talladega win. It's just a matter of time. It's still early enough that these guys can get their ducks in a row. I think Kansas will be another good opportunity to do that. But, yeah, I mean, a lot of storylines coming out of Texas. Biggest crowd since 2010 down there in Fort Worth. So that's big for Texas Motor Speedway. I wasn't sure what the future of that racetrack is, but the fact that they packed him in, the attendance was good. I guess the viewership was pretty good. That's a good sign for keeping that racetrack on the circuit going forward. I don't know if we'll see it back in the playoffs per se, and I don't know if it deserves to be, but I definitely like it as a spring race, and as we kind of kick off this mile and a half run.
Yeah, we kind of need is the spring race because it gets too damn hot, man. It really does. You and I went to it last year. It was like 107 ambient temperature. But Texas is a good track. It's unique. It's we were listening to what Josh Berry was on the radio when we were driving to the race, and he was talking about, Texas is one of those tracks. It's not a regular cookie cutter mile and a half. It's a different style of racing. So I actually really like it. And I know we did lose a race, and then we got the All-Star race, so we had 2 races that one year, or 2 years in a row. But Texas needs to be on the schedule.
Yeah, it's earned its keep for sure. And on the broadcast side, Scott, you'll have to fill us in on this because, shout out to Texas Motor Speedway. They're just a fantastic facility, and the hospitality, they were so nice to us. We got to, be up in the media area and just meet some great people. So that was fantastic. But Sky, watching at home, I understand Fox had a new director going into this race. Your thoughts on the coverage?
It was the best Fox coverage I've seen, so far this year. I mean, my most favorite part about the entire thing, it was like 40 laps to go, 47, I think. That was the last commercial break. So that's like stuff that we want to see, I'm pretty sure Dega, they had a commercial break within 10 to go or something, I'm sure, or right around 10 to go.
That sounds right, yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to see that. So I'm very, very impressed with that. I got to give them a huge shout out. This was probably the better of the broadcast that I've seen for sure. And they were a little bit more alive in the booth. I mean, I like when there's passion. And whenever Kyle Busch spun out, Mike Joy, I mean, you could hear he was like, oh no, like he felt bad. Like that's what we want to see. So I got to give them, I'll definitely say B plus, if not A, for sure.
That's a good score considering we've been beating their brow off all year long. But is it a day late and a dollar short, right? Because we only have a couple few races left before we turn it over to Prime and TNT, which we'll get into here in a sec.
What did you guys think about the number 11 of Denny Hamlin, just like on fire? His ass was on fire going down the road, man. He spun out. Even his kids were scared. I mean, I saw some stuff on social media with their comments and whatnot.
I gotta know. I'll give my opinion, but afterwards, I gotta know how the crowd reacted to that because I heard they were booing him, so I'm sure they really liked that. But it was interesting. I mean, it was like he was fine and then he wasn't. I mean, he even said it was fine one lap and then the next lap it started going to shit. So it was definitely interesting. I was worried. I mean, he was not stopping that car. I was like, Denny, you're like, there's black smoke billowing and there's flames. Like, why are you not pulling over right now?
Yeah, he should have tried to bring it back to pit road a little bit sooner. He called it, this thing's blowing up, it's blowing up. And then by the time he got to the start finish line, I mean, we were sitting up in the glass and we could smell it, that the thing was burning, And so crowd loved it, of course. When Denny came out for driver introductions, he gave the Texas horns and then he turned them upside down and the place just went berserk. So look, that's Denny. He's going to play off the crowd. He's having fun with it. He knows. He was talking about it on Actions Detrimental earlier. He was just giving Texas a little bit of a hard time. And he said, you know what? He says, don't mess with Texas because it got me back pretty badly.
Denny is so weird to me because I love Denny and I hate Denny at the same time. Like, it depends on the day. I mean, his podcast, I agree, is one of my, like, I watch it every single week or, well, listen, watch, whatever. I watch it on YouTube, but I listen to it every single week. I mean, his insight is so, especially like being on the podcast or whatever. I mean, his insight is just so different because it's coming from a driver a driver and an owner. I can't forget that. So he just has such a different opinion and perspective on things. And I think he is just so great. And I love the villain arc that he has. I mean, we need that. I mean, I myself am a fan of a villain. So I love it. I love the passion. It really just, I don't know, it makes things better in my opinion.
It's kind of the Kyle Busch syndrome. I mean, everyone booed Kyle Busch for so long. It didn't matter where he went for the most part. Kyle Busch, unless he was in Las Vegas, he got a lot of shit, a lot of heat. Everyone, I mean, I've given him some heat, over the last 20 years. But, Denny, until recently, he is the new villain. And you're right, Sky. I mean, that's what we need in the sport. We need the rivalries. We need, the bad guys, the good guys, the in-between guys. But Denny is getting the heat right now. And, rightfully so, though, because he eggs on the crowd and he loves it. Kyle Busch said this a long time ago. He's like, you know what? Whether I get cheered, booed, I get everyone's attention. So that means everyone's paying attention to me. And that's what's going on with Denny Hamlin right now. And you're right, Sky, being with this, how much he has and how much knowledge, being a driver, an owner, and how long he's been in the sport. He knows his stuff. So, he's got a lot of good insight on the podcast. I do listen to Detrimental all the time, and, it's good.
Yeah, he's great. I think all of it, the value he brings, the knowledge, an owner, a driver, And people love a little bit of drama, and his career almost went backwards of Kyle Busch's, whereas there used to be a lot of Denny Hamlin fans, in the old FedEx days and going way back to the early Joe Gibbs days, huge Denny Hamlin fans. And now it's kind of flipped, whereas Kyle Busch and later in his career is now a fan favorite who just turned 40. So now considered in that veteran class. But look, the 90s, Gordon versus Earnhardt. We love that type of stuff. And it wasn't until Denny started, getting into it with Chase Elliott, NASCAR's most popular driver, that started to develop. And I beat your favorite driver. And he has all these great one-liners, 11 against the world, which I did see a
Yeah.
few of those shirts out there at Texas Motor Speedway this weekend. So there is some 11 fans out there, but I think he likes to get the crowd riled up. And you know what? I'm here for it. I mean, Denny's a great driver. He's going to win more races this year. He's going to be in the conversation. And, he stuck around after his car blew up. He said, I'm not going to fly home. I'm going to stay here because he's an owner, right? He wanted to see how Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace were going to do. Obviously, Bubba got the worst finishing on that deal. But look, 23XI, definitely going to be in the conversation. Corey Heim is going to be running in the Cup Series this weekend for 23XI. So a lot to look forward to there.
Yeah, and Bubba Wallace, his car literally caught air on lap 173. He's closing in on Kosen Hosvar, and he brushed the wall, and then he got tagged from behind by Joey Logano of all people, and gave him a little bump. Man, he caught a little air in Texas.
Joey is always in those situations. I feel like he's always near a car that's wrecking and somehow is involved one way or another. I got a lot of flack over that on social media, but it's one of those things. I think people forget that a lot of this happens very quickly and very fast. It's easy to sit at home on Twitter, typing away on your keyboard, acting like you're a driver in the seat, but it was just one of those racing deals. I mean, most of the incidents were racing deals overall.
Yeah, and Joey Logano, I mean, he's had a little bit of I don't know, a little stigmata, I guess you'd call it, because when he won the championship, his average finish was 17.1 for the entire season. It was the lowest of championship in the history of the sport. But it's about the wins, and that's the way this playoff format is. So I'm kind of wondering still if we're going to go back to a different format, because I think I was listening to was it Dale Jr., Kevin, that we were talking about a week ago. He's doing his podcast talking about these drivers these days. They don't care, because it's like, I have next week to get in the playoffs. All I need is one win. So you can have a bad finish, and then next week, if you do great, you're in the playoffs.
Yeah, and even Tony Stewart was interviewed about that and what his thoughts were on the current state of NASCAR, and he basically said the same thing. He goes, even the Daytona 500 has lost a little bit of meaning of, one of our crown jewels. To win that race, number one, anyone can do it on a super speedway. But number two, it doesn't guarantee you anything. Look how many guys have won that race and then got knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. So, there's just all those factors that go in. But, what's the old saying? Don't hate the player, hate the game. And these guys have figured it out. Joey's figured out how to be successful, and Ryan Blaney and all these guys have figured it out. Whereas, the veterans, if you will, Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch have struggled here in this format. So, we know that there's going to be some changes with the championship. It's official now that it will be in Homestead, Miami next year, and then rotate from there. We were discussing this within the last couple of podcasts, and that's official now. I like that move. I think it's a start, but I still think we need more tweaks.
Yeah, because it's tough, because there's only so many tracks that we can run in November. So I think, Homestead will probably get it for a couple of years. And then I think they're going to give Vegas a chance. And I think Vegas would be, it's an okay track. I mean, there's a lot of mile and a half that I think are better, but there's just not too many places you can actually run in November. So that's what happens. So it's just the way it goes. But I'm glad, they're switching it up a little bit. I know a lot of fans have not been happy with Phoenix, even though, we've been going there for years, and it's a great track. I love going to Phoenix, but apparently next year we're going to come down and see Sky in Florida.
I've definitely said all of this already once or twice on here, and I sound like a broken record, but I am not a fan of the when and you're in playoffs. I know it's rich coming from a Logano Team Penske fan, but I am all for full season. I feel like that's the only way to make it fair. But I do like that we're making progress in the championship format. I think personally, like I said this last week, I think it should rotate the 3 tracks at the end of the year, the championship 4 round. I think that's probably the most fair if we're going to keep this weird win and you're in, whatever. I just feel like, because at the end of the day, let's say 1 week or 1 year it's at Homestead, the next year it's at Phoenix or whatever, Vegas, whatever, what have you. You get into the Final Four 1 year, you're good at Homestead, and then the next year you're trash at Phoenix, and then you're pretty much like, oh well, I guess at the end of the day I have no shot to win this. So I'm not the biggest fan of the winning your end. I really, really, really don't like it. I feel like we need to just drop it and go full points. But I mean full season points, but I think that'll never happen again.
No, I agree 100%. I think we need to go back to the points. I mean, yeah, get the extra points for the win, but winning you're in, it's kind of cheesy in a way, and I think it's kind of been played out, and I think a lot of the fans are realizing that. So, we need to go back to like 15 years ago when it was just straight up points. Yeah, you got extra points for winning, you got extra points for leading a lead lap, winning the race, stage breaks. I do like the stages. I do like that they've added the stages. It gives a little bit more drama into the races, which I do enjoy because, as we know, cautions breed cautions. So if you're going to bring in stage breaks, you're going to breed a caution. And one of the things Kevin and I were having to tell my girlfriend this weekend, we had to teach her about the choose rule. And she got a concept of it and kind of understood. But here you got guys that are running P1 and P2. Next thing you know, they're right behind her on like 1 and 3. So that's just the way the choose rule is, and I do like that, and I do like the stage breaks. But as far as just winning you're in, I agree, Sky. I want it to go back. I want to go back to regular points. So I mean, if you're going to win, yeah, you'll get the extra 10 bonus points for every race you win. So I think we need to change the playoff format, and I do like they're going to rotate the tracks. I think Phoenix, Vegas because of the weather, and Homestead would be great tracks to run because obviously we know places like Kansas City, those places can get snow at any time of the year for the most part. But yeah, as far as points go, I want the old schedule back.
Yeah, I think there's a way to do a little bit of both. I mean, when the chase for the Cup started, that's what it was when it was the Nextel Cup Series. That's when this whole idea started of brackets and trying to kind of mimic what some of the other sports do. But in the sport of racing, you have a great season. You win 10 races, you lead laps, you win stages, and then all of a sudden you make it to a round, you have an engine failure, you get wiped out at Talladega, now you're out. And so I think there's a way to combine it, right? You keep the stages, you keep the stage points, you keep the Xfinity fast lap for an extra point, and just have an accumulative point system, right? And if somebody can clinch a championship in Martinsville, then so be it. I mean, we see that a lot of times in a lot of other motorsports. You still are racing for a trophy, but I just don't know how aggressive NASCAR wants to get with kind of going back to the Winston Cup era, if at all.
They'll never again. I could wish and pray every single day of my life and they'll never go back to it. I feel like though this whole winning you're in is causing so many issues. I mean, that's why we have drivers who, like we were saying earlier, they don't care, they have next week. So if they, wreck someone this week or get involved, make a stupid move and wreck out, oh well, I have Kansas next week or I have Talladega, the second half of the year or whatever. So
absolutely.
And there's so many rules that it's so hard for someone who's casual or someone who's just starting. There's just so many little nuances and rules, and I feel like it works and it doesn't in a way, I guess.
Well, we saw it at Richmond last year, right? We saw exactly what happened with Austin Dillon. Well, I had to win to get in, so I had to, wipe a guy out. I guess it had to unfortunately be your guy. But that it created that situation. This type of racing creates for guys to have to do stuff like that. We don't want it to come down to a super speedway. These overtime finishes, I'm okay with overtime and the overtime rule. But even that, a guy leads, let's say Kyle Larson were to dominate 240 laps, and then he gets freight trained on the outside, or end up in a choose rule situation like Blaney did, and the whole thing goes out the window. So it's just hard. It's easy to be a Monday morning quarterback, I guess, and sit here and speculate on the right way to do it. But I think everyone's in agreement, and I think NASCAR at least understands, or otherwise they wouldn't have done this move with the championship, that something's got to happen. We got to put all the cards on the table and protect these drivers too, so that we don't have those scenarios where you're wrecking guys for a win. Well, I had to make the playoffs, so I had no choice but to hook them.
Yeah, and that's the problem because you want to full send it, you want to put someone on the wall, but like you said, what happened there. They took the win away from him. Yeah, he still got the trophy. He still got the points, but they didn't put him automatically in the playoffs. Like right now, I mean, I love the Josh Berry's in the playoffs. I mean, he won a race. He's seventh in the playoff standings. And, the Wood brothers, they're just a great organization. I mean, I love seeing them in there. But look at the guys that have won, Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, William Byron, Joey Logano, Austin Cindric. So you got two of your Penske boys in there, and then Josh Berry. Other than that, there's only 7 drivers that have won a race this year. I mean, multiple races, sure. But, Chase Elliott hasn't won since, Texas last year. But he's still in P8 right now as far as the playoff points go. He's 110 in the positive because he's getting those stage wins and he's getting those extra points. So it's going to be interesting to see. And what I want to talk about, you guys, is Kyle Busch, number 8 car. What's his winless streak? Like 82, 83 races without a win now?
Yeah, it's something like that. I just think it's RCR, if you want me to be honest.
Yeah, it is.
It's absolutely RCR. It's terrible equipment. He had no choice but to go to that. It was his best option given the circumstances of leaving Joe Gibbs. And he did get a quick win with RCR, but those guys are just struggling. They have struggled for so long. Austin Dillon, the equipment's just not there, which forces Kyle to have to drive harder. He's trying to get everything he can, hence the, speeding penalties, wrecking off turn 4. He's just pushing this thing to the absolute limit, to try to make it up as a driver because he doesn't have that, elite equipment that the Penske Fords and the Hendrick Chevys have.
Yes, equipment, but also just the personnel. I mean, most of the time how many times has he lost a tire this year? Like, I feel like it was like a stretch of like 3 or 4, 5 races in a row that like his pit crew just was screwing him.
Kyle Busch, he's doing his best that he can. I mean, he's 12 points below the cutoff line. If he can push a little bit harder, which I know he's doing his best, but it's hard when you have shitty equipment. So, for what it's worth, I think he's right there. And I probably think he will take Ricky Stenhouse, which is 12 points above the cutoff line. But one thing I got to give a shout out to is Chris Buescher. He's been doing a pretty damn good job lately. He doesn't have a win, but he's still in P14 as far as the standings go, with 27 points above the cutoff line.
Well, and he's heading back to a racetrack where he was next to Kyle Larson, the closest finish in NASCAR history, where he thought he had it won. So, that's got to feel pretty good when you are going back to a place where you almost won, right? I mean, you've put everything you have into it. You're right there with Kyle Larson. We know he's got a good 1.5 mile package. We know he can get it done. So, if I'm Chris Buescher, those guys are bringing good, fast race cars to the racetrack, and they should feel pretty good about their stable.
As far as the playoff standings, he does need to win. 27 points is not a hell of a lot of points to, have half a season and you're only that far above the cutoff line. But then again, we've got guys like Carson Hocevar and Ryan Preece and even AJ Allmendinger, which are like 21, 23 points behind the cutoff line. But I don't think Ricky's going to pull it off with only 12 points above. I think Hocevar, Kyle Busch, or Ryan Preece could easily get above him.
I think that's fair. And I don't even think it's too early to talk about points because we've seen it come down to 1 point at the cutoff. So, you always got to be looking. And that's the whole reason why these guys get back out on the racetrack and finish. Instead of finishing 37th, we'll take 34th because a couple guys might wreck and we'll take those 3 points. So every single point matters. And we're on to Kansas, guys. We're on to another 1.5 miles, kind of a sister track to Las Vegas, right? Kansas is one of my favorite racetracks on the circuit, always provides for great racing. I'd mentioned Kyle Larson, of course, winning this a year ago, 0.001 seconds over Chris Buescher. So I'm getting ready to say Sky's favorite line here, that the Hendrick Chevy should be favored going into this weekend.
I think so too. I mean, it's going to be good because like Kyle Larson, like you said, he took P1. Chase Elliott took P3. I think they're going to do really well.
My favorite Joey win is at a Kansas track, is at Kansas. So I'm excited for Kansas. Before we go ahead and give our picks, I did want to say something interesting. AAA, that is the first time that they've ever won out of all the times that they've sponsored NASCAR. I mean, they've been doing it since 05. Right. That is the first time that they've ever won. So I thought that was pretty cool. And as much I went against my Joey pick last week and chose a Chevy, and I'm not doing that this week. I'm going to full send it. I'm going Ryan Blaney, Penske 3 in a row. That's who I think's winning.
Ooh, okay. I think it's a very doable pick, just seeing how good Ryan Blaney is. I mean, He's consistent enough to do it. He's hungry enough to do it. He's been in position to do it. I think Blaney's a good pick. Jeff, I got to steal your pick from last week. I'm going Kyle Larson. He's bitter from he won that Xfinity. He wanted the Cup. He's the defending champ of this race. I think the 5 gets it done.
As far as my number one pick, yeah, I'm going to go Kyle Larson. But if I have to go P2 pick, I think I'm going to go with Christopher Bell.
I think the Toyotas are a good one to keep an eye on as well. 23XI has run really well here. Bubba Wallace has won here. So Tyler Reddick, he's looking for, to get some success going. So I think 23XIs are great picks. Obviously the Hendrick Chevys, if you have them, the Penske Fords we mentioned. And then, a couple of these guys, Josh Berry won at Las Vegas, was up front in Texas. I think all those are great picks and definitely things I'm going to consider going to my fantasy lineup. We'll get through Kansas before the All-Star break. And then we head on to the Coke 600, which obviously we've talked Prime is going to take over. So that'll be interesting to see how their broadcast team works. And we saw TNT announce some of that coming down the pipeline, which we can get into next week after Kansas. Looks like the Xfinity Series off this weekend. The trucks will be there on Saturday. I believe Byron is doing some double duty there. So that'll be fun to watch. And then we got Kansas, of course, 3 Eastern, FS1. Let's hope that Fox can have great back-to-back coverages of this race. Again, Kansas is great. So looking forward to it, guys. We'll be back next Monday to break down all of the action from the Heartlands out there at the Kansas Speedway. Be sure to follow us on all social media platforms at Mash the Gas. Be sure to follow Sky over there at NASCAR Sky. And until then, y'all,
Mash the gas.